My name is David Kruger. I'm 50 years old. If someone had asked me years ago what happiness looked like, I would have said her name, Miriam. She wasn't just beautiful. She had this energy. When she laughed, the whole room felt warm. I met her at a small bookstore near the train station. I was buying a work manual. She looked at my book and joked, "You need romance, not concrete." I laughed. She stayed. That's how it began. We got married 2 years later. Small wedding, just close family and friends. The next year, our daughter Lena was born. She had Miriam's eyes and my stubborn nature. For a while, life felt full. Mornings were loud with cartoons and cereal. Evenings were quiet. Bath time, bedtime stories, tired hugs. I worked long hours at a construction firm. It wasn't a fancy job, but it paid the bills. It gave us a safe life. I missed birthdays. I skipped holidays. But I always thought Miriam understood. I thought she knew I was doing it for us, for our little family. But slowly, something changed. After 12 years of marriage, Miriam changed. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cold. Just distant. One evening after dinner, she looked at me and said, "David, I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time." I didn't understand. I asked, "Can we talk to someone? A counselor maybe?" But she shook her head. "I've already made up my mind." A few months later, the divorce was done. She kept the house. I moved into a small rented flat, just one bedroom, no garden. Only enough space for a small bed, a table, and Lena's little suitcase when she came over on weekends. We agreed on joint custody, but it didn't feel equal. Lena stayed with Miriam most of the time. Her school, her dance class, her friends, everything was near her mom's house. I became the every other weekend dad. Still, I tried. I made her favorite pancakes when she visited. We watched old cartoons together. I helped her with homework. I always asked about school and her friends. But her answers got shorter. Fine. Good. Nothing much. She looked more at her phone than at me. I didn't blame her. She was growing up. But deep down, I felt something slipping. I thought, maybe it's just a phase. Maybe she'll come back. So I kept showing up, again and again. One Sunday, when I dropped Lena back at Miriam's house, she introduced me to someone new. "This is Arvid," she said. "A friend from work." He was tall, well-dressed, confident. He smiled, shook my hand, and said, "I've heard so much about you." I didn't say much. I just nodded. Within months, Arvid became a regular part of Lena's life. He had a fancy car, took them to nice restaurants. They went skiing in the Alps. He bought Lena the latest phone, designer shoes, and a big birthday party. She started calling him Uncle Arvid. Then one day, she called him Pa. Not in front of me. I overheard it when she was talking to a friend on the phone. "I'll ask Pa. He'll know." It hit me like a punch to the chest. But I didn't say anything. No drama. No fight. I just stayed quiet. I kept doing what I always did. I reminded her to take her allergy pills. I drove her to school when Miriam was busy. I made sure she had the same cereal she liked, even if she didn't finish it anymore. I paid my share of everything. Sometimes, I even helped Miriam when she said, "I'm a little tight this month." Still, no one noticed. There were no thank yous. No smiles. Just silence. But I held on to one thought. She's still my daughter. And one day, she'll see who was really there. A few years passed. Lena was now 21. She had grown into a smart, confident young woman, and I was proud of her. One day, I opened my mailbox and saw a thick white envelope. Her wedding invitation. I smiled until I turned the card over. Giving the bride away, Mr. Arvid Lawrence. My name wasn't there. Not as father. Not as guest. Not even in small print. I stood in the kitchen, holding the card, my hands shaking. I read it again, but the words didn't change. Later, Lena called me. "Hi, Dad. Did you get the invite?" I took a breath. "Yes, I got it. So, do you like it?" I stayed quiet for a second, then asked, "Why is Arvid giving you away?" She paused. The line went silent. Then she said, "He's been there, Dad. Really present. And I just didn't want to cause drama. You know how Mom is." That hurt. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just asked, "Who paid your college fees? Who picked you up in the snowstorm? Who sat with you during panic attacks? Who always showed up?" She didn't answer. Then she sighed. "Dad, can't you just be okay with it? It's my day. I nodded slowly. Thanks for letting me know, I said. And I hung up the phone. Inside, something broke. But outside, I stayed calm. The day of Lena's wedding came. I woke up early. It was quiet. No suit to iron, no speech to practice, no seat to claim. Just me and my thoughts. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the rain fall slowly outside. My phone buzzed a few times. A message from Miriam. Really mature, David. I didn't reply. A missed call from Lena. A voicemail came in. Her voice was soft, unsure. Dad, I noticed you weren't there. I hope you're okay. I thought you'd understand. Anyway, I love you. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood something. I had become invisible. For years, I had shown up, quietly, without asking for anything. And now, even my absence was just a footnote. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just sat there with my cold coffee and watched the day go by. For the first time in many years, I didn't have to pretend I was okay. I simply was. 3 months passed after the wedding. No calls, no messages, just silence. I kept busy, fixed old things around the apartment, went fishing again, started reading books I had forgotten for years. One cold evening in December, I heard a knock. Not loud, just soft. I opened the door. It was Lena. She looked tired. Her eyes were red. Her makeup was smudged. She didn't say much, just stood there and whispered, "Hi, Dad." I stepped aside. She walked in slowly and sat on the same couch where she used to watch cartoons as a little girl. I sat across from her, waiting. She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry for calling Arvid Dad. I'm sorry for leaving you out. I didn't see it then, but I see it now." I didn't say anything. I just watched her. Her voice shook. When I told Arvid I wanted to study again, he said no. Just like that. No offer to help. No support. And when I fought with Thomas, he said I was being too emotional. He didn't even ask if I was okay. Her eyes filled with tears. "But you always came. You always helped. You never asked for anything in return." She looked at me, waiting for something. But I stayed quiet. Because every word she said had come too late. Lena looked at me with tears in her eyes. Waiting, hoping I would say something soft. Something kind. But I didn't. I folded my arms and looked at her, not as a child, but as an adult who had erased me. Then I asked, "Why now, Lena?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" I kept my voice calm. "Why are you here now? Not before the wedding. Not when I paid your college bills. Not when you let someone else walk you down the aisle. Why now?" She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't let her. "You're here because Arvid said no. Because when you needed help again, you remembered me." Her lips shook. "No, Dad, that's not true." I raised my voice just a little, not with anger, but with pain. "Don't call me Dad now. You had a father when it was easy. When he brought you gifts and took you skiing. When he stood in front at your wedding. I was the backup. The silent one. The one you only called when things went wrong." She started to cry, softly, shoulders shaking. But I didn't move. I didn't hug her. I stood up and walked to the door. Opened it, gently. "You chose someone else, Lena. And now that it's broken, you want me back." She didn't move. Just looked at me with wide, wet eyes. I pointed at the door. "Go." She got up slowly. At the door, she turned around and whispered, "Please don't say this." I looked at her, steady, quiet. "Next time you call someone Dad, remember who always showed up. And remember why he finally stopped." Then I closed the door. Not with hate. Not with revenge. Just peace. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No messages. Just quiet. And to be honest, I was okay with it. But then, on a Sunday morning, I heard another knock. I opened the door. Lena was back. But this time, she wasn't alone. Next to her stood Miriam, my ex-wife. Her face looked tired. Not sick, not weak, just worn out. Like life had finally caught up to her. "Hi, David," she said. Her voice was calm, almost careful. "Can we talk?" I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside. They walked in and sat on the couch. The same couch where we used to sit together when Lena was a baby. The same couch I sat alone on the day they both walked out. Funny how furniture remembers everything. Miriam looked down, then cleared her throat. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For everything." I didn't reply. She took a breath. I let Lena believe you weren't really there for her. And not just let. I encouraged it. Lena looked down, ashamed. Miriam continued. After the divorce, I was angry. I blamed you for how I felt. I wanted to win, David. I wanted Lena to choose me, to choose my life. And Arvid, he was just convenient. I looked at her. You let him take my place? I said quietly. She nodded. Yes, I did. And now, I regret it. The room was silent for a long moment. Even the clock on the wall ticked softer, like it didn't want to interrupt. Then Lena spoke. Dad? She whispered, her voice shaky. I believed her, even when it didn't feel right. I let her voice become mine. And by the time I realized what I had done, it was easier to keep going than admit I was wrong. Tears were falling now. She didn't wipe them. I thought love meant gifts and trips. But when I needed support, Arvid disappeared. You never did. I looked at both of them. But inside me, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Just calm. I was done chasing. I sat back in my chair and placed my coffee cup down slowly. I looked at Miriam. Then at Lena. You know what the hardest part was? I asked. They both looked up. It wasn't the wedding. Not the missing invitation. Not even seeing someone else give you away. I paused for a moment, then said, it was knowing that everything I gave, the time, the money, the small things I gave up, meant nothing when it was no longer convenient. Miriam wiped her eyes. She whispered, you didn't deserve that, David. I nodded. Then I turned to Lena. She looked small now. Not like a grown woman, but like a child who realized she made a big mistake. I said softly, I used to love you, Lena. Do you hear that? Used to. Her lips trembled. Dad, please. Can we rebuild this? I miss you. I stood up slowly. You already built something. With someone else. You didn't notice when the ground under you started to crack. I walked to the door. Opened it, calm and steady. They both stood. Miriam said quietly, you're a good man. I see that now. I looked at her and said, I wasn't disposable. You just treated me like I was. Then I turned to Lena. She didn't say a word. Just stood there, holding her sweater sleeves tight in her fists. I hope life teaches you the value of people who never leave, I said. And I opened the door wider. They both stepped outside slowly. No hugs. No promises. Just silence. And I closed the door behind them. Not with anger. Not with pain. With peace. 3 weeks passed after that last visit. No messages. No more knocks at the door. Just silence. But this silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I still thought about them sometimes. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just like a road I used to travel. Familiar, but far behind me now. I spent my mornings quietly. Black coffee. A book in my hand. Sometimes I sat on the porch and listened to the birds. Sometimes I walked along the lake trail near my apartment. The same trail I used to take Lena on when she was small. One morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. It was from Lena. Inside was a small folded page. Just a few simple words, handwritten. Dad, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I want you to know, I see it now. Everything you gave. Everything you carried. Everything I forgot. Arvid was a guest in my life. You were the foundation. I just didn't realize it until I stood on it. And it broke. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know. I remember. And I'm sorry. Love always. Lena. I read it twice. Then folded it carefully. I walked to my bedroom and opened an old wooden box. Inside were baby photos, Lena's first drawing, birthday cards with glitter, and a picture of her standing next to me on a construction site, holding a tiny toy hammer. I placed the letter there. Because it belonged. Part of our story. Not erased. Not forgotten. Just real. That evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sun drop behind the trees. And I smiled. Not because everything was fixed. Not because things went back to how they were. But because for the first time in years, I had finally chosen myself. Enjoyed the story? Give it a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. More powerful stories are just around the corner.